Welcome back here at Goldberg. Today I'll be talking about some observations, recent experiences. If you want a super focused subject, just wait for another segment. This is going to be hodgepodge. I believe I've noted before that if I were to choose just my side hustle, 2 days a week, once in a blue moon, three, I could make enough as a single male to pay my mortgage, bills, gas, groceries, once in a while take a vacation, not as frequently. I wouldn't be able to save, stack, and invest as much, but I could do maintenance of existence. And so on almost every regular occasion, you'd have 5 days off per week. He's like, well, why wouldn't you do that? I mean, that's freedom. Why would you be shackled to capitalism and the man? It's interesting because when you look at YouTube, and I understand it's been curated to a degree, but you have the types who are ex-lawyers, doctors, engineers, consultants, worked on Wall Street, and they've just had it. They want to run away, live on the mountain, be a minimalist, subsist just with their car, doing the gig economy, have a YouTube channel. And then there's the doomers, the neets, underemployed, can't get a job, aren't able to save any money, perhaps on welfare, disability. And if you're a woman, you could just go on a dating app, have a guy take you out once in a while. Could be a platonic type association. You're going to have female friends. But a man who is normie sub five, in almost every instance, they fall back on these primary activities. So you've got playing video games. And I got to be honest, I have not touched my PS4 for at least a year, and the PS4 itself is kind of outdated. I played Infinite Warfare well after it came out. That was a good game. I got into the Fallout where you're the woman looking for your son. And then I got Witcher 3 Game of the Year edition, and I played a little bit, but just haven't had the motivation. Very recently, in fact, right before I made this video, I purchased, it was 50% off, so Republic Commando, which I played years ago on PC, and then Star Wars Bounty Hunter. I remember trying that at a friend's house on GameCube, and I hated the controller for GameCube. I could not figure out how to multitask, but the mechanics of the game itself seem pretty good, and I want to say this version is remastered, so we'll see how it is. But for the most part, I look at video games as a way to fill time, but afterwards you don't feel terribly productive. Now someone's going to go, well, who cares? You can just be enjoying something. It doesn't have to be the Protestant work ethic. Besides video games, well, you can sleep more. That would be nice. I get 5.5, 6 hours if I'm lucky. There's some nights I just can't sleep. This has been for a long time. I don't believe I have sleep apnea. Part of it's my schedule. Part of it's, once more, you don't feel like you're achieving enough. If you have a day where you have to be at work and you're sleeping until you have to go to work, nothing gets done. So then you have to wait till your day off and cram everything. They'll mention drinking alcohol, which unless I'm like out with a girl who's worth associating with, I don't typically bother. I have to have someone around. I'm not going to drink just by myself. Drugs never had an appeal for me. I have noticed both interactions online and in person. It seems that Tradcath and Eastern Orthodox types, they have an affinity for marijuana and psychedelics. Maybe it gets them closer to God. I always have thought back to that experience in the Orthodox Church where they had the no windows open when they did the incense, so it was building up. You had the girls singing, the guy was chanting, and all the colors of the church, and you're kind of connecting with something. But is it legit, or are they trying to simulate it? I suppose the Protestant equivalent would be when they start swaying and speaking in tongues, they throw themselves on the ground, they wiggle around, wave flags. I'm not trying to do a theological debate, but it's interesting how people are interested in certain substances or activities based upon how they see the world. For the most part, these doomers will fall back on complaining about not having motivation, potentially not knowing what to do with their life. Oh, I'm not going to get a trad wife and kids. When I think about it, if I had 5 days off, there's some things I could do. Like I was clearing vines today because they're all over my shed. And what happens is they start burrowing like into the stones or on the house. It'll go under the wood. You try to tear them off, they can actually damage the siding. So that's going to be a multi-day project getting it done, but eventually it will be completed. I'm going to try to inject my other vehicle with refrigerant because it's not blowing cold air. Hopefully that's just the problem right there. So once more, it's a task, but it's not going to be there in perpetuity. I guess I could try to learn an instrument. Reading wise, I've gone through so many texts that the local library has basically been made redundant. Yeah, I could switch to fiction, but I prefer audiobooks. I don't really like reading those small paperback novels. Can't focus on them well enough. Films and movies, again, so many of them, I can't really take them seriously. They have to really stand out. I think I mentioned that before. So a lot of the stereotypical time sinks just don't work. You could spend a couple more hours a day in the gym. You could focus on building your body. Maybe that would be admirable. But of course, when you start doing that, you are going to probably have to spend some more on supplements, realistically speaking, if you want to make rapid progress, because being a natty bodybuilder takes a lot of time. So, what else are you going to do? Get involved in crime? Well, I suppose we could be Dr. Orion Taraban and just bloat max. That's a possibility. I will concede that working too much can be detrimental as well. So, about a week ago, and this was not my design, I got voluntold. I should have said absolutely not. I was like, whatever. Ended up working an ungodly amount within a 24-hour period, and it crushed my immune system. So, if I'm lucky, I'll get an 8 to 12 hour stomach bug, which isn't too bad. You can manage it even if it occurs at work and you anorexia max. It sheds a lot of water weight in the stomach area, no jelly belly. Then you're done. You're good as golden. The problem is that this was a head cold. So for me, it means incubation of 3 to 4 days. Then it hits really rough for 72 hours. You've got a runny nose. You have eyes that look like the cover of Blood Rain. I saw that at a thrift store, the PS2 version with the redhead. Never played it. Is it good? I imagine it's some kind of zombie vampire hack and slash. In any case, I had to pull the plug on my vacation, which sucked. I just said, I'm not going to be on a plane trying to breathe, wiping your nose in a middle seat. It ain't going to happen. I think I'm going to get most of the money back. The flight is a partial credit. Now, just a word of advice, do not utilize Kiwi, Kayak, or Trivago. Booking Priceline Travelocity is okay. Ideally, you go directly to the airline and to the hotel to book because whenever you use these third parties, like Trivago didn't even confirm my booking at the hotel until I emailed them the day before. And at that point, I'd already requested a refund. And you always get some call center that's probably in the Philippines or whatnot. It's just a mess. So stay away from. They think, oh, we're going to give you a better deal, but they may not be charging you the full amount. And then you get a surcharge when you reach the actual hotel. It's something to avoid. Therein lies the folly of being a workaholic. You can give up the ghost a bit and have to sacrifice activities. So instead of going on this trip, I just drove down the road about 10 miles because I'd never been to this one particular gas station and I got a coffee there. Yeah, I know it sounds lame. Funny, it was a gas station run mostly by Americans. There was a cute blonde there too. So you have to sort of go out and mingle a bit more. And that's one benefit of having being sort of flush with fiat. You don't care about doing these sorts of things, which would be seen otherwise as wasteful if you're on a fixed income or you're just getting a disability check. Going back to the question of having an abundance of time and filling it with varied activities, I might have mentioned before when I was a tradesman in that one city, if on the weekends I wasn't hanging out with my friends or I wasn't working on classes, sometimes I just hop in the car and drive, go to a restaurant, go to a bar, Walmart, bookstore, the global market. My motivations, I didn't have much. I just wanted to stay busy and perhaps see something interesting, meet a person, date a little bit here and there, did some cold approaching. Yeah, nothing special, but it was a way to make life more interesting. And I always stress that people that find everything boring, they may need to get out more. But of course, if you don't have extra money, you might feel guilty about that because you're trying to stretch every little dollar. So it's a strange relationship that people find themselves in. And for a while during the pandemic, I did this with Panera, which is actually a decent chain. They still taste like real food if you go to the right location. I went to Starbucks for a spell. That was where there was this redhead I thought was attractive, but she always had the mask on because of the mandates. And eventually they lifted them, so I saw her without it. Not saying she was unattractive, it just wasn't what I had in mind from seeing her mannerisms in her eyes. So it threw me off. Wasn't really sure what to do with myself. That was also the location where that flamboyant Latino was trying to give me his number. And there's some ironies in life because you have guys on the internet, oh, I'm a chin cell. I wish I had a different jawline. Well, this kid had defined cheekbones, square jaw. If he was straight, he would have had no problem picking up women, probably of any ethnicity, especially that coterie of ages, early 20s. And instead, this dude, his Instagram, he's just posting pictures of himself in women's clothes all the time and crying about being a man. How does fate work in this world? It's bizarre. Moving on to some recent adventures, maybe 2 weeks or so ago, went to this chain restaurant, which used to be a lot larger, but they've taken a hit, as many did during the pandemic. So I was falling asleep on the booth table, and I ordered a quesadilla, which was pretty poor. There's actually a local food truck that does them incredibly well, not because it's a food truck. Most of those are horrendous. That's just a myth for hipsters and Zoomers. They're trying to save money by getting less of the experience. And then I ordered a unsweetened, although obviously fluoridated iced tea, and I got some ice cream, although the jar looked like they didn't properly wash it. Go figure. There were some cute waitresses, but they sent me the one that looked like she was baptized in a tackle box. So it goes. Well, across from me, you have this couple that comes in. The guy was an obvious redneck, mustache hat, didn't say a word. Wife looked like a granny, and she's carrying a dog with her. Now, a telltale sign of a society in decline is the normalization of canines everywhere. It used to be seeing eye dog, then it went to emotional support dog. Now everyone wants dog friendly cafes, dog friendly. I don't need your animal near me. It's one thing if it's your house and they're under the kitchen table, but a well trained animal is not going to be there begging or trying to jump on your lap to eat food. And God forbid something falls between your legs and they pounce on it before you relinquish it to the floor. That would be terrible. It's funny because I remember as a kid, I wanted to do a lot of the Class A American things. So I said, let's get a dog. Kind of like I figured grandmas were supposed to be sugar and spice and make you cookies and always be nice. That was not the case with mine. Regardless, wanted to get a puppy. Instead, we went on Craigslist and found this dog that was, I think it was part beagle, part Jack Russell, or maybe part wiener dog. It was one of those low to the ground, looked like a sausage, but not as skinny as a wiener dog. And this was some lady, she was moving to an apartment where she couldn't have it, so she was just trying to get rid of the animal. Her son was probably late 20s, early 30s, and he was so attached to it. He was on the verge of tears saying goodbye to this dog. I always remember that. Then we got another one from some farm, this elderly thing that was semi, with arthritis. But I would take them, it was my responsibility. I had to take them on walks. And these animals would do their business, and you had to pick it up and put it in a plastic bag. And the older one rarely did a normal sort of business. So you'd be on the verge of vomiting. But that's normal practice, right? You own an animal, you take care of it. Well, there's this guy where I live. I'm pretty sure it's this dude, always walking with his two big dogs. As multiple times he lets them crap on the lawn and just walks away. It's like, dude, what the hell is the matter with you? But this is normal for dog culture. They want to be a dog parent, but not take responsibility. Back in the day in the United Kingdom, they'd have these signs that said, no dogs or curry cells. And then the dogs filed a discrimination lawsuit, and this Care Bear came in and wrote the Race Relations Act. So they have penetrated every different location. But back to the restaurant. This woman pulls out her phone and gets on the line with I guess it was the insurance company or healthcare, whatever, on speakerphone having conversation. Well, indeed, we pay $400 a month lot rent at the trailer park, and I'm not sure if I can make this payment now. And she's just going on, right? It's probably 25, 30 minutes. Sitting right next to them in the booth, or the next one over, there's this boomer couple. The guy, they always have the comb over hairstyle from back in the day, and he's rage pilling at the blonde waitress. Oh, this is outrageous. I don't see us ever coming back here because she's on her speakerphone. And I was like, man, why don't you just get up and do something about it if you're going to complain? Like, you think this chick is paid enough to actually bother? I should also indict myself because I was on the verge of going to that very booth because these old people left, and then I was going to play Let the Bodies Hit the Floor on max volume on my phone. I was just genuinely super tired. Like, I couldn't keep my eyes open even though they were having this loud conversation. So that's where we are in America today. No one really cares. They'll just do what they want. And then there's the barber shop. By the way, very black pilling environment, barber shops, salons. There was this lady the second to last time I went where she's probably late 30s, blonde, trying to keep the muffin top from exploding out. So she had the tight dress or jacket on. And she's just going down the line. Oh, yeah, there's Ray. He's 59. He thinks I'm still going to let him hit it. Come on, bro. You're old. There's Antonio and Jimmy and Carl. This is a woman who's supposed to be post-wall, according to the MGTOWs. And she's still riding the carousel. And she's proud. She'll talk about it where people can hear. But when I went, I mentioned before they were having a conversation about the Haitians invading the little rural community. The one lesbian girl, when she started there, she was maybe 130 pounds. Now she's got to be over 200. Nice person, but I was like, why do you have to grow into the stereotype of the butch lesbo? But I'm sitting there because some people are going to say the reason you're bored is because you need to have a trad wife and kids. Well, I'm sitting there getting my hair cut, and I don't usually do haircuts because I see no point. I have a full head of hair, and although recently I did start wearing a cap, not because I need to cover anything, but I need to find some kind of decent conditioner to keep it in place because otherwise it goes everywhere. And for whatever reason, I seem to get more IOIs when I have the hat on. I guess it kind of puts stuff in order, makes you look like a masculine country boy. That's besides the point, though. So I'm sitting there getting my hair cut, and this woman, probably Hispanic, comes in with her two kids. One's in the little baby rocker thing, so very young. The other was maybe 3 or 4. And she sits him on the chair, and as soon as the lady turns on the clippers, he's going, "Oh, I'm scared," and trying to like jump everywhere. He starts squawking literally like a monkey. I thought it was in the Rainforest Cafe. And she's trying to bribe him, coax him. You get ice cream, you go to the pool, you get pizza. And he'd be like, okay. And then as soon as the clippers go, "Oh, I'm scared," you squawk, squawk, squawk. And I was like, man, I could not deal with that. I tell my son, look, you're going to either do it or you're just getting buzzed, and I'll do it. Like, I'll buy the clippers and I'm going to, buzz your head or whatever. I think they should have just used scissors because maybe it would have calmed down. But she was there for probably about, 20 minutes while I'm getting the haircut. And meanwhile, she keeps pointing at me. See, he's not scared. I'm like, oh my gosh, dude, do I have to be the cheerleader for these people? As for Hinge, I got liked by not large Caucasian women, they just have sizable heads. So the one, I swear, if there was a disaster scenario, collapse of the dollar, you could cook a Jimmy Dean meal and then a double egg McMuffin on her forehead. So that's obviously going to come in handy. Then there was this Keisha who liked my profile, and she was, okay. She wasn't fat, but had the round head again. So she was asking me questions. I answered them. Then I looked at her name, and it was like a Star Wars character. And I didn't ask her about, are you named after a Star Wars character? I used the actress's name, hoping she'd make the connection, but it's not unflattering. It's an attractive Caucasian woman, but I guess she didn't like that, and then she like immediately blocked. I'm going, see, this goes back to my point where I think, for better or worse, these 5 foot tall indigenous women and Asian women are going to win the battle of the womb because a lot of the American ones, like, they just cannot deal with being a normal human being. They incapable of it. There's something wrong in the wiring. And it's like, if you get so offended over something minute, you're not going to make it. You won't even get to a date probably because you're so neurotic. Anyway, moving on to the highlight. There's that Chinese YouTuber where he goes, you know why McDonald's coffee is so delicious? It's because they don't clean the machines. Oh, yeah, that sounds disgusting, but on a meme, I went, let's do it. So I download the app. They give you a 1,500 point bonus on your first order. I put in for a fillet fish, but with no tartar sauce, which maybe that was a mistake. I swear years ago it was Thousand Island dressing because I remember ordering one of those. They're allegedly more on the healthy side by McDonald's standards. And I pulled through the drive-through, and there was this, I don't know if she was Dominican or mixed. I mean, she was gorgeous. She had massive, like, double D's. And she was like, do you want the Thousand Island dressing? Like, someone was definitely Thousand Island dressing that back then and probably today as well. Then I ordered a small decaf. So we're coming back to the other day. I show up at the drive-through and they say, give them the code. And she goes, okay, pull to the second window. But there's this GMC Sierra in front of me. And I'm not going to whip around him because then if he pulls out last minute, there's going to be an accident. So I just wait and then I advance to the second window. No one's there. I look back, there's a white SUV in the first window. Someone hands them a bag, which they proceed to hand back and point towards my vehicle. I was like, oh, great. So they screwed it up. No one, I'm sitting there a couple of minutes, no one comes to the window. So I whipped around, parked on the other side of the McDonald's, and I walked in. As I enter, you see this Pooja sprint out of the back with a bag and a cup, deer in the headlights, like all panicking, going to the second window. And I was like, hey, I could have been a jerk, but it's a crappy job. It looked like they were understaffed. So I just turned it around. I was like, she had these grotesque, oversized purple nails. And I said, do you do those yourself? She's like, nah, tee, they're fake. Honestly, for being probably a Maratha, Dravidian Puja, she wasn't all that bad. She was tall, had ion cannons, skin wasn't all jacked up, which is a recurring problem. Long hair, nice smile, no beak, more of a potato. So who knows? Maybe I'll give that a try. I want to say she's in town. In the last year, we've gotten this deluge of Indians and Muslims, not necessarily of the polite variety either. So I was cutting my lawn, and I'm at the front part. I was shirtless, but not pantless. Well, the way a mower works, it sprays grass. And I see this grandma Hojabi Indian coming down the sidewalk, which she's always walking. So I was like, all right, I waved to her and I pulled the mower back deeper into the lawn so she doesn't get blasted with clippings. And she just glares at me. In reality, she was probably intimidated because she was turned on. I mean, how many times do you see a shirtless, genetically superior Care Bear presenting themselves? It just happens. Ultimately, though, you have to be something of a mercenary in life nowadays. You can't rely on, meeting people online. I suppose if you're religious, but many of these religious bodies, the guys that go to them say it's all old people or it's men. So you have to just be constantly going around. I have not been back to the Dollar General in the last week or so, so that will have to go later. And then the girl the Becky who works at the restaurant, she also wasn't there because her schedule's all over the place. She wants to take over that business. She's never going to have time to do anything, but when I have an opportunity, I'll try. And that's kind of how, once more, I'll return to it. You have to keep yourself busy. So is it worth not working more if you're then going to have to find things to do, which at some level will just involve consumerism? Because if you're not willing to go out and spend some money, everything isn't open to you for free per se, especially in the realm of interaction. So yeah, that's been my life recently. Let me know what you all been doing.